When we hear about sexual discipline today, one practice that often comes up is semen retention. It may seem modern, even strange, yet its principles, self-control, respect for one's body, and mastery over desire, have been present in spiritual teachings for thousands of years. Jesus never specifically said, practice semen retention, but when we look closely at his teachings, we see a deep awareness of sexual energy, self-control, and the power of the human will. His words point toward a truth that modern men are rediscovering. Mastering your desires is not just about morality. It is about reclaiming your energy, your mind, and your life. In Matthew 5:27-28, Jesus said, "You have heard that it was said, 'You shall not commit adultery.' But I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart." Here, he shifts the focus from outward acts to inward control. The danger, he explains, is not merely in behavior, but in desire itself. The mind, when unchecked, can enslave the body. The principle behind semen retention echoes this. The battle begins internally. Mastery over sexual impulses is first mastery over thought, attention, and the energy that fuels both. Our culture teaches men the opposite. Pleasure is instant, dopamine is cheap, and restraint feels unnatural. The body and mind have been trained for temporary satisfaction rather than long-term growth. Jesus recognized that desire without discipline can dominate a man's life. He called his followers to a higher path, not by giving step-by-step instructions for retaining seed, but by emphasizing control, purity, and awareness. It is in these principles that we find the spiritual foundation for the practice. The body and the mind operate differently. The body can recover and heal quickly, but the mind craves what it is used to. Jesus spoke often about the heart and mind, the sources of human behavior. The body may abstain, but the mind remembers. The struggle is not simply physical. It is a battle between conditioning and transformation. Semen retention is difficult at first precisely because the body and mind are out of sync. The body begins to heal, to redirect energy, while the mind calls for the familiar, seeking the same pleasures it has long associated with reward. Discipline, then, becomes a spiritual exercise. As Jesus said in Luke 9:23, "Whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross daily and follow me." Denial here is not punishment. It is practice. It is the repeated act of saying no to short-term pleasure in order to claim long-term strength, wisdom, and freedom. Semen retention aligns perfectly with this principle. Energy is preserved, the mind is trained, and the body becomes a temple once again. By practicing restraint, a man begins to notice the subtle changes in his energy, attention, and presence. His awareness sharpens, and his focus deepens. This was the kind of life Jesus taught, not one enslaved by impulses, but one directed by purpose and clarity. The act of controlling sexual energy becomes a metaphor for controlling life itself, your attention, your actions, and your destiny. It is through this mastery that one can reach both spiritual and personal fulfillment. The struggle in the beginning is natural. Like all forms of spiritual growth, the start is the hardest part. The body is adjusting, the mind is rebelling, and the old patterns scream for attention. But this struggle is the sign of transformation, not failure. Every urge resisted, every moment of self-discipline is a step toward aligning body and mind, toward following the higher calling that Jesus described in his teachings. Have you ever wondered why controlling your desires feels almost impossible at first? It's because your mind is addicted to what it knows, while your body quietly starts to heal and grow stronger. The problem is, Most men quit during this early struggle, thinking the difficulty is a sign of failure. But the solution is simple. Stay consistent. Every day you practice restraint, your mind begins to relearn what true strength feels like. Before long, the struggle transforms into freedom, and your energy becomes a tool for purpose instead of distraction. As weeks go by, the separation between body and mind begins to close. The body's energy, once scattered and wasted, starts flowing toward focus, creativity, and presence. The mind gradually learns that discipline leads not to loss, but to empowerment. This is the subtle shift Jesus pointed to repeatedly. The idea that mastery over self is the key to spiritual and personal authority. It is not the act of holding seed alone that matters, but what this act teaches: patience, clarity, and the redirection of natural energy toward meaningful action. Sexual energy, when mismanaged, is distracting and weakening. Jesus' warnings about lust reflect this truth. Unchecked desire pulls attention from purpose and clouds judgment. Through retention, the mind and body can redirect this energy. Creativity increases, focus improves, and confidence deepens. The struggle fades because the brain no longer equates pleasure with loss or distraction. Instead, it begins to associate restraint with reward. This is a lesson Jesus embedded in his teachings. The reward of discipline exceeds the temporary satisfaction of indulgence. The spiritual dimension of this practice cannot be overstated. In 1 Corinthians, the body is called a temple of the Holy Spirit. Preserving energy, controlling impulses, and cultivating mental clarity honor that temple. Jesus did not need to give modern techniques. He gave the principle. The body and mind are sacred, and self-control is the path to holiness. Semen retention is simply one modern application of this ancient wisdom, a way to respect the temple that God has given. Semen retention is by far one of the best ways to increase your energy and build a level of confidence through discipline that is bulletproof. It rewires your brain to seek real connection and gives you the strength to avoid lustful relationships that destroy you and leave you feeling empty. If you want to learn more about mastering semen retention, I suggest you read The Semen Retention Blueprint. In it, you will find 25 chapters where we go into various topics regarding semen retention, like physical benefits, relapses, wet dreams, how to retain while in a relationship, spiritual growth, pheromones, and much more. The list goes on. If you want to check it out, the link is in the description below. By maintaining control over sexual energy, a man also gains control over his attention, thoughts, and emotions. Every time he chooses discipline over indulgence, he trains his mind in focus, patience, and presence. This is exactly what Jesus was teaching. True mastery begins within. He did not promise ease. He promised transformation through dedication and self-denial. The early difficulty in retention mirrors this journey. Over time, the initial struggle becomes easier because the brain adapts. The old pathways that once demanded constant stimulation weaken. New pathways that associate pleasure with productive action and discipline strengthen. Energy that was once wasted now fuels growth, creativity, and spiritual awareness. The process is gradual, but the results are profound. What once seemed impossible becomes effortless. Most men fail to see the long-term power of restraint because they judge themselves by immediate results. The problem is that the mind clings to habit while the body is already moving toward balance. They see discomfort and think they are failing, when in truth, they are beginning to transform. The solution is patience. Stay consistent. Every day, your mind relearns strength. Your body channels energy wisely, and what once felt impossible gradually becomes second nature. As the mind and body align, a man starts to feel a quiet power within him. His thoughts are clearer, his emotions more stable, and his presence more commanding. The energy once lost in fleeting pleasures becomes available for meaningful work, relationships, and spiritual growth. This is the practical manifestation of the principles Jesus taught, that discipline over desire is a path to strength and peace. This alignment also produces confidence. The man who has practiced restraint carries himself differently. People notice his calm energy, his focus, and his ability to resist distraction. This is not arrogance, it is the natural effect of mastery. The struggle that once threatened to break him now serves as the foundation of his presence. The longer this practice continues, the more integrated the lessons of Jesus' teachings become apparent. Lust is no longer a tyrant. Pleasure is no longer a chain. The mind no longer rebels against the body because both are working toward the same goal: clarity, energy, and divine alignment. Semen retention becomes easier, not because the desire disappears, but because the man has learned to direct it consciously. Here's the reality most men don't understand. The early difficulty of retention is not failure. It's the brain recalibrating to true strength. The problem is that society confuses indulgence with happiness, teaching men to flee discomfort. But the solution is the exact opposite. Embrace the discipline. When body and mind finally align, the energy you once wasted becomes your greatest asset, and the struggle you feared becomes your path to freedom. By the third or fourth month, most men notice a profound shift. Their energy is steadier, their focus sharper, and their emotional state calmer. They begin to experience the benefits that Jesus implied: clarity, presence, and alignment with purpose. Sexual energy no longer dictates life. Instead, life channels energy. This is mastery, the principle he taught by calling his followers to deny impulses and take up their cross daily. Even spiritual practices become easier and deeper when energy is preserved. Prayer, meditation, creativity, and work all feel more potent. The body and mind are in harmony. The struggle that once defined the beginning of the journey has become the foundation of a new, powerful, disciplined life. This is the hidden message behind Jesus' teachings. Self-control, clarity, and energy management are keys to spiritual and personal fulfillment. While he never mentioned semen retention by name, his principles show the wisdom behind it. Control your desires, honor your body, and your life will reflect the strength, clarity, and peace that he promised. Think about this. Most men quit too early because the beginning is hard. The problem isn't the practice, it's the early struggle, when the mind rebels even as the body heals. But the solution is patience, consistency, and faith. Stay the course. As time passes, your mind adapts, your body channels energy, and the struggle becomes freedom. What once drained you now empowers you. The principles Jesus taught guide this journey perfectly. Mastery over self leads to mastery over life. By the end of this journey, the man realizes something profound. The challenge was never the enemy, it was the teacher. Semen retention, when practiced with awareness, is not merely physical discipline. It is mental clarity, spiritual alignment, and energy mastery. The body heals, the mind adapts, and the spirit awakens. Through this practice, the principles Jesus taught become alive in daily life: self-control, presence, and the conscious direction of energy. What began as a struggle transforms into a life of purpose, peace, and strength. The early discomfort fades, replaced by quiet confidence and clarity. Though Jesus never said the words semen retention, his teachings guide every step of the journey, showing that control over desire is not just discipline, it is liberation. If you made it until here, leave a crown emoji in the comments. I want to see how many of you made it to the end and finished what you started. To everyone who supports my channel, thank you so much. I'm forever grateful. And if you're new here, thank you as well. Remember, live with honor or die a coward. Take care, brother.